Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Welcome to Kansas City Profiles presented by Easton Roofing. The things that Deron Cherry has accomplished in his career, both on and off the football field, are almost too long for a podcast like this. In fact, I could probably make the entire podcast, which lasts upwards of an hour, just ticking off accomplishments. But we'll talk about his life story coming up with Deron, and he's a great storyteller about that. He was a star high school football player. He went on to become a free safety and punter at Rutgers University. He was named the MVP at Rutgers in 1979 and 1980, all East honors. Despite that, he was undrafted, a free agent who came to the Kansas City Chiefs, cut once, and then rejoined the team as a safety and went on to an unbelievable career. Unbelievable even more, considering he was a free agent. He certainly was regarded as one of the best free safeties to have ever played the game, a six-time Pro Bowl selection from 1983 to 1988. He was on the NFL's All-Decade team of the 80s. He had 6 100-tackle seasons in 11 years as a member of the Chiefs. He was also a 5-time first-team All-AFC and 2-time second-team All-AFC selection, 15 career fumble recoveries, a slew of interceptions. He ranks third on the Chiefs' list of most interceptions and is only the 26th player in the history of the NFL to reach 50 interceptions. And 1987, he was selected to the Chiefs' 25th year all-time team. About the only thing he hasn't done is make the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and many people think that is a grave disservice as well. But after a great career, which was curtailed a bit by knee injuries, he certainly didn't let up when he left the football field. Among the many endeavors in which he and his family have given time, talent, and resources include the Special Olympics, Muscular Dystrophy Association, Project Warmth, the United Negro College Fund. He's had a celebrity golf tournament for a quarter century, the Deron Cherry Celebrity Invitational, and it has indeed raising millions of dollars for Score One for Health and Camp Quality. As I said, there are so many accomplishments, so much business success. Became a minority owner with the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's an unbelievable story, and it's an unbelievable story we'll let Deron tell coming up next on Kansas City Profiles presented by Easton Roofing. What a pleasure. We're here with Joe Spiker, the CEO and president of Easton Roofing. And Joe, you had a great year in 2019, a record year. 2020 comes, things are moving smoothly along, and then the coronavirus comes. But your company seemed to be very ready, very proactive, and very ready to serve your customers well.
Yeah, we adopted social distancing very early before the cities even put out the notices. And we started working from home. We are largely cloud-based as a company, so that transition was easy. Our technicians are wearing masks and gloves, and salespeople are not meeting with homeowners. We're doing everything digitally and doing everything we can to do our part to get over this as quickly as possible.
So for any needs that people have right now, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Well, you can always call us, 913-257-5426. But the best way is to go to eastonroofing.com, put your information in, and we'll give you a call.
Easton Roofing, integrity matters. I'm here with Tim Emerson, the owner of Emerson & Company. And Tim, give us an idea of the range of services that you provide from Emerson & Company.
At Emerson & Company, we do credit card processing, payroll services. We do bookkeeping, merchant accounts like point-of-sale systems.
What would you say differentiates you from other companies in the field, and what makes you special?
I think what makes us unique is that we're a small local business making regional decisions on companies. We create a profile for the business and then put it out to our different vendors in a very competitive environment and tailor those needs to the specific business, which usually ends up in a great fit or great result for the company.
And, of course, the idea is to save money, right?
Save money, and actually sometimes I'm surprised where actually a solution that may cost a little bit more ultimately does save money, but we're not conditioned to think like that sometimes.
Emerson & Company. Check them out at emerson-co.com or call them at 816-360-9092. Cinematic Visions has been an affordable solution for professional media production in Kansas City since 2003, offering award-winning video production and creation, as well as a wide array of digital and social media management services. From planning, scripting, filming, editing, and post-production, to delivering your product to a watching world, Cinematic Visions will provide professional and affordable services for you and your business with the necessary return on investment to make it all worthwhile. Cinematic Vision's goal is to unlock the power of storytelling through video and a strong online presence for your company. Beyond the numbers, they want to inspire and evoke your clients to feel and act. Let my friends at Cinematic Visions embed your brand where it belongs, in your customers' minds. You can find them online at cinematicvisions.com or with a quick phone call at 816-600-6300. Firsthand, I have enjoyed the benefits of the CBD products from Canaway. My back feels better and better these days, as a major part of my routine are the pain-relieving salve and the pure gold oil. And recently I had the pleasure of a treatment session using the Canaway CBD in conjunction with the Microlight 830 cold laser. The non-invasive treatment session worked wonders, and I could barely tell I was even being touched. TML 830 is the first 3B cold laser to get FDA approval, and in addition, the combination treatment with CBD is patent pending. The new smart laser is the only hands-free cold laser in the world and is used by athletic trainers, chiropractors, MDs, physical therapists, and veterinarians everywhere. You can learn more about all the great benefits from the complete line of Canaway CBD products by contacting my friend Sherry McCants at 515-208-6312. That's 515-208-6312 to get outstanding information about Canaway.
If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at danny@dannyclinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you.
Deron, you grew up in New Jersey, and most of the time the jokes back east are which exit you're near. That's how people in New Jersey are sometimes judged.
Yeah.
But you came from a big family of 5 children, and there were some challenges there, particularly for your mom.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. She, raising 5 kids on her own, basically. My dad and her kind of separated and then eventually got divorced, so she was stuck with all 5 of us. And I can say we weren't the easiest 5 to get along with. We always had, something going on at the house. Between my brother and my sister, or me and my brother, or my oldest brother and me, and our youngest brother. So, I would say that she had a tough time, but, she weathered the storm. We didn't grow up with a lot of things, but, we felt like we were rich in a lot of things because of my mom, because of the type of person she was, and the things that were important to her. We're in church every Sunday, and she knew that always that the Lord, regardless of what we needed, that He would provide it for us, and He did. So I'm so thankful and grateful that I had that structure growing up of a woman who understood, about life and could teach it to us, and so that we would understand how to live our lives in a positive way. And so I'm so grateful for her for so many lessons that she taught us growing up, and more importantly, to be about family and respect individuals regardless of their race or their color or their nationality or whatever. She was always preaching us to be respectful. So I love that woman to death. I'm just sad that she's still not here with us now,
right.
But she lived 78 years and had a great life, and I'm so thankful that I had a woman like that to raise me.
What was it like for you to have your parents split up and your dad go away?
It wasn't easy, Danny. It was kind of hard at first, because I think every kid wants to grow up with their family and have their parents together. But unfortunately, sometimes that just doesn't happen. But my dad was around, and we still had time with him. My dad was very involved in sports and athletics. He was a baseball umpire, and he refereed basketball games. So the one thing he always did was he'd always come pick us up, and we'd go and watch him umpire or watch him referee. And so we got a chance to see him, quite often. And during high school, he was always there at our football games. And I remember I was a quarterback, and he would come up every single Friday night because we played on Saturday afternoons. And, he would always get me prepared, kind of ask me questions, ask me what I was going to call, what plays, because he was a former high school coach, and so that was kind of special growing up and having that guidance and somebody that understood the game and knew what you were going through. My dad was a heck of an athlete when he was growing up as a young kid, and you know, he always gave back and spent a lot of years coaching kids, whether it be in baseball or be in football. And so we used to go a lot of places with him and to a lot of sports, and he knew a lot of people, and my dad had the gift of gab, so everybody that met him loved him. So even though they were separated, we still had a lot of quality time with my dad. And you know, during our college years, he was always at all of our games, and so we spent a lot of time with him. So it still, in some cases, felt like he was still there. My mom never remarried, so she was very thankful that, you know, I was thankful to her that she always gave him the ability to come and see us whenever he wanted, and they just always got along. So from that standpoint, it was still good for us.
When did you realize that maybe you had some aptitude? You became a very fine baseball player in addition to being a football player, and of course it was a time when people kind of played everything. That's really not the case that now. And you had older brothers who were good athletes, and actually played golf with your brother the other day by complete happenstance. He's quite a player, as a matter of fact. But But when did you start to realize that you had aptitude for these games, and maybe which one did you like first?
Well, I could tell you we started baseball early on in our lives. I think I was 7 when I started playing, and had a lot of success playing baseball, loved baseball. That was kind of growing up, that was a sport to be in. We couldn't wait till the spring hit back in New Jersey in April when the season started. I mean, it was just so much excitement in the air when baseball, that first game, and then playing all through the summers and being picked to play on all-star teams and getting to play at these nice facilities where they had like a fence that you could hit it over the fence, you know, for a home run. Loved that, you know. That was very, very exciting and really special time to be picked for an all-star team and then to go play on 4th of July, because that's when all the all-star games were, and, you know, you celebrate playing during the day, eating in the evening, and then watching the fireworks at night. So it was quite a unique time for us as kids growing up to experience that. And then I started playing football when I was 9 years old in the PAL League in our hometown. And, you know, football in our town was a big deal. I mean, it was our PAL football organization. We got kids from probably about 3 surrounding cities, and we all played together on the PAL football team. At that time, it was we had a 100-pound team and a 125-pound team, and of course the younger guys were on the 100-pound team. Is where I started, and I actually, you know, started practice in the summertime. And at the time, I was only 8 years old, but the limit was 9. But I was turning 9 in September, so they kind of let me come out, and the coach was a little afraid to let me play. But once he saw that I go out there and hit, and because I was playing with my brothers and all of the kids growing in the neighborhood all the time, so I was ready and prepared. He was a little afraid and didn't want me to play, so my first year, he kind of kept me out, didn't give me much time, and then at the end of the year, we played in this game against a bigger team down in Atlantic City, indoors at the Atlantic City Convention Hall down in Atlantic City. And, you know, he finally put me in because it was at the end of the season, and I did extremely well. And he came over and gave me a big hug and said, you know, I'm sorry. He goes, I didn't realize that you was as tough as you were, and I should have been playing you a lot sooner. And I just, from that point on, it just, you know, my football career just kind of went up to the sky. And the coach at that time, Mr. Osamekins, you know, he was an unbelievable person and man that helped so many kids out and gave them the guidance that we needed to not only be good athletes, but be good people and study hard and work hard. I mean, he wouldn't let us play if our grades weren't up to par. So you not only had to be a good athlete, but you had to be a good student in his eyes in order to play for him. And he had a lot of championship teams and a lot of great athletes that played for him. So it was, it was a great experience, as a young kid growing up playing football.
I know you've talked in some articles that I've read about the fact that when you were growing up, maybe it was Mr. Meekins, or maybe it was just a natural thing that maybe you were the one in the household who took a lot of the responsibilities of taking out the trash and doing things like that. Where do you think that came from?
I think it. My mom always instilled a work ethic in us, and I think Mr. Meekins did too. Where you had to be disciplined, and, a lot of times we didn't want to do things. At practice, we didn't want to run, but he'd run us, and you had to develop a real strong mental toughness. And I know my mom, she would always, have me taking out the trash or cleaning up the house, doing the dishes, cleaning up the bedrooms. But I think in the end, I used to get mad because I had two other brothers, and they kind of didn't have to do too much. But, she told me one time as I got older, she said, well, the reason why I had you do all that was because I know you do it right. And I was a perfectionist. So she knew that if she told me to clean something, I just wasn't going to sweep it. I was going to do it. I was going to dust. I was going to mop. I was going to do everything I could to make sure it looked clean. And so she recognized that in me early on, and that's why she always used to say, I used to have you do everything because I knew you'd do it right. And so that helped me, when, as I got on in life, being able to be a student of the game and study and, not leave anything, no stone unturned, so to speak. I was going to try to figure out everything I could about something, and that's kind of how it was for me.
Then you move into your teenage years. What was it like being a teenager? It's around the early 1970s. What was life as in Palmyra as a teenager for you?
Well, it was always built around as a teenager. It was just built around sports. That was the thing in our hometown, especially in high school, like you said earlier, Danny. We all played multiple sports at that time. When it was football season, it was football. When it was basketball season, we played basketball, and then baseball. We played baseball throughout our high school career. So that's what my focus was. And in the summertime, we did a little bit of everything. We played in basketball leagues, summer basketball leagues, played baseball all summer. So we were running around all the time. It seemed like sports were the thing that we did, and it was good for us growing up because it kept us out of trouble, kept us occupied. We didn't have to worry about being involved with kids that weren't really doing anything and getting involved in trouble and doing drugs and drinking and doing all those things that are detrimental to you. We were always, playing sports and doing things, working, summer jobs so that we had money because my mom couldn't afford to give us any. And so we had to spend a lot of time, doing jobs. And I think I did just about everything at that time as a teenager, from sweeping the streets of my hometown, in a program, to working in the sewage plant, shoveling crap, in these barrels and stuff, the old school way where they had these greenhouses where they poured that sludge in on sand and then let it bake, and then once it got done, we'd clean it out with pitchforks and carry it to the dump. And, farmers would come and grab it for fertilizer, or we just take it to the dump. But I did all those things when I was younger, and you kind of appreciate a lot of the hard work you've done growing up, and that you didn't get anything for free. You had to work for it. So I'm accustomed to that.
When it comes towards the end of your high school years, you are a multi-sport star. And when I was talking to your brother the other day, were you really recruited as a baseball player as much as a football player?
Yeah, I was. Definitely recruited as a baseball player. Actually, I had opportunities coming out of high school to sign like a professional baseball contract, and then I decided not to do that because, I wanted to go to college. I wanted to get my degree. That was important for me, my education. But it didn't stop them from asking me, to participate. And then I wound up getting a scholarship to Rutgers to play football. And actually asked the coach if I could, I didn't ask the coach. I kind of had a little bit of leverage over him because there was a scout from the Phillies that showed up at training camp every single day trying to get me to sign a contract with the Phillies, and the coach asked me, said, "Who's that guy sitting up there with your dad that's got that Phillies hat on?" I said, "Well, he's a professional baseball scout. He wants to try to sign me for a contract." And he goes, "Well, why don't you tell him to go away?" I said, "I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to tell him to go away. I'm thinking about playing baseball." And that was my way to get him to agree to let me play baseball in college. That's the only leverage I had. So I finally told the guy, I said, "Hey, you can go. I'm not going to sign a baseball contract. I'm going to stay in college and play football, and coach is going to allow me to play baseball in college too as well." So he wound up leaving and never came back, never saw the guy again. So it was funny.
Did you, as you went on, of course you were a fine football player, but was there a point in time when you realized that it was going to be football as your professional life going forward?
Yeah, I knew that, even when I was deciding on whether I was going to stay in college and have the coach let me play baseball in college, I knew that I was going to play football. I just wanted to play baseball too, but I knew it was going to be football. We had, baseball season on the East Coast. It's a lot tougher, and I had the opportunity to go play in a senior Babe Ruth championship down in Lawrenceburg, Tennessee when I was a freshman. I was still eligible because I was only 18 at the time of my freshman year. After I finished my freshman year, that we went and played down in this senior Babe Ruth World Series, and it was a national tournament. They had teams from everywhere, California, Florida, and you get to see these kids play and go against these pitchers, and I'm looking at these guys with these arms that are unbelievable because they had such a longer season. They just seemed like they were more developed. I knew then that I said, well, no, I got a long ways to go if I'm going to compete against these guys that, are playing, 10, 11 months out of the year, and shit, we might be lucky if we get 3 months in back in Jersey. So I knew that, but it still didn't change my mind that, I wanted to play baseball still, but I realized that football, I was doing pretty good in college and was going to have an opportunity to start as a sophomore, so I knew that that's where, most of my focus would be.
Right. To backtrack a little, for people who are unfamiliar with this, Rutgers is basically the state university. It is the State University of New Jersey. It just doesn't have a name like New Jersey University.
Right.
Why Rutgers, and were there any other competitors for your services?
Well, there were other competitors. And Rutgers, it's the State University of New Jersey, prided itself in, its education, and they always looked at their school as like an Ivy League school. And so I had, applied to Princeton and applied to Cornell, and I got accepted. Of course, I was getting letters for football from all those schools. Mm-hmm. They wanted me to come and play, and I took a trip to the University of Minnesota because they were always looking at players in New Jersey, and so I took a trip up there, and I was really wanting to go there because they had a good dental program, and I wanted to major in biology with an opportunity to maybe go to dental school at some point in time. And I kept waiting to hear back from them, and they never called me back. But Rutgers had offered me a scholarship at the beginning of my senior year, and then Cornell came in kind of late and wanted me to come up there and play quarterback for them. And they flew me up there to look at the campus, and I was like, wow, I really like this campus. Maybe I want to go to school here. And they said, yeah, you'd be the only quarterback we're recruiting. And I was kind of like, wow, that's pretty good. So I came back and I told Coach Dick Curl, who actually was a coach here in Kansas City, along with Ted Cottrell. He was my coach at Rutgers too, the defense coordinator. But Dick Curl was my coach that recruited me because he lived in the next town over from me. And I called him. I said, "Hey, Coach, I think I want to go to Cornell." And he just hung up the phone. And 5 minutes later, he's at my house and said, "I'm not letting you go to Cornell. If I got to sleep on your doorstep, I'll stay out here all night. But you're not going to Cornell." And I said, "Okay." I said, "All right, you can go home. I'm gonna stay and go to Rutgers." And the reason I did was because Rutgers was giving me a full scholarship, and Cornell was only basing it on need. And when I was talking to them and negotiating with them, I said, "Well, are you going to give me the same package every year?" And they said, "Well, no, we can't guarantee you that same package every year." And I know that, my parents weren't in a position to fund an Ivy League education, without a scholarship that was going to be a full ride. So I just said, okay, I'll stay at Rutgers, and I wound up going up there. And the interesting story, Danny, was, I got up there my freshman year, and Rutgers played Cornell that year up in Ithaca, New York. So they, when they came back from the game, they had the game day program. My brother was on the traveling squad at that time, and they brought back the game day program, and Cornell actually had me listed in their freshman on their freshman roster that year. And so they handed it to me, and Coach goes, "Yeah, I thought that you were the only quarterback they recruiting." And then I said, "Well, yeah, that's what they told me." I went down the list, and they had about 11 quarterbacks that, or kids that had quarterback by their name that they had recruited, to play up there. And I said, "Well, I'm glad I didn't go up there." But I got a chance to go up there and play against them my sophomore year, so it was cool. I mean, it was quite an experience. But yeah, so I had other opportunities, but decided on Rutgers, and my brother was already there. So, and they were starting to play a much bigger competitive schedule with schedule in Tennessee and Penn State and West Virginia. They had a lot of big schools, so it was going to challenge me as far as playing against great competition.
Well, most people think of Rutgers now, and they don't think of good football, but they were really good when you were there. And right before you went, right before you went there, they went undefeated.
Yeah, they did go undefeated. That was my brother's freshman year, so I knew that there was a good program. They had a great coach, and like I said, I was excited to be part of a class that was a very, very good class. I think all 4 years we had a winning record. Mm-hmm. And, the other reason I went there was that it was going to give me an opportunity to play early in my career and not have to sit on the bench and wait, especially as a freshman. And I wound up starting, being the starting punter my last 2 games as a freshman for the varsity, and then got to play a little bit in the secondary too as well. So, from that standpoint, it really helped me quite a bit. And like I said, the other thing too was the educational side of it, because most people think that it's an Ivy League school, from an educational standpoint, I was going to get a quality education, and that was important as well.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
Let's spend a minute with Dr. Brad Woodle, who, along with his wife, Dr. Christina Woodle, the owners of Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture, my home for chiropractic care. And first of all, just tell us about the wide range of services you offer.
Danny, we offer comprehensive chiropractic, acupuncture, physiotherapy, and rehab. We do a very thorough examination, x-rays on site as necessary, and we have a full rehabilitation department, so we can help out with exercises, stretches, different therapies for the complex, but also the very simple conditions we treat.
You have been deemed essential and have remained open all through this COVID-19 process. What are some of the things you've done to make sure that was the case?
From the very beginning, in March, we started to make sure that we were cleaning and sanitizing with EPA-registered sanitizing products. We also implemented masks way before the state required them. We implemented a parking lot waiting room, took out half of the chairs in our waiting room, and made sure to space out visits so we could appropriately meet, discuss, and also screen patients to make sure we were taking care of healthy people.
Find out more about Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture and how they can help you at asfca.com.
Hi, everybody. This is Matt Llewellyn from 23rd Street Brewery in Lawrence. I just want to thank everybody for supporting local restaurants during this time of uncertainty. 23rd Street Brewery is now open until this pandemic is over. And right now, more than anything, local restaurants need your help and support. Come on out and see us. 23rd Street Brewery is open now from 11:30 till 9 o'clock for dine-in and carry-out. Whatever we can do to help you out, maybe with your catering needs, too. I appreciate all the support. And thank you for continuing to shop local.
Most of us have experienced auto accidents, and it's no fun. And even less fun is trying to work on the insurance aspects afterwards and getting full value after an auto accident. I'm here with David Cowan from wreckexpert.com. And David, you have an unusual and important niche for people after an auto accident.
We have a passion to teach car wreck clients what they deserve. Getting your car repaired only fixes the damage and the paint. Getting paid for your car's loss in value is called diminished value. Chances are you've never heard of this before because most people aren't looking out for you. We help people collect thousands to tens of thousands of dollars for their car's loss in value after the wreck.
And if somebody wants to come to you for that, what's the original assessment cost them?
We offer a free review of any insurance claim to see how we can help.
You can't beat that. Great expertise and assistance in getting full value after an auto accident from David Cowan. Visit wreckexpert.com and learn more. It's time now to get some great assistance on healthcare with Chad Beisel from no-nonsense-healthcareninja.com. And Chad, even your business's name would indicate that you have a real aggressive way and an important way to go after some health insurance for your clients.
What I've found out in the industry is just a lot of people are really confused. They don't know what plans are good, what their plans offer, how they cover. And so I've just taken the approach of being really educated on what options are available to clients and showing them all the options that are available and making sure they understand them so they can pick and choose what options are good for them.
And one thing that's really important, of course, is access to doctors and hospitals.
Absolutely. That's becoming a big issue for a lot of people. Some of the plans out there are going to restrict those clients to where they can and cannot go. So if you live just outside the Kansas City metro, some of the counties outside, you may not be able to go to some of the hospitals up here in the Kansas City area. So making sure that you have a plan that's got doctors and hospitals and places you want to go is really, really important today.
Learn more by visiting no-nonsense-healthcareninja.com and let Chad help you. If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at danny@dannyclinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you. Our guest is Deron Cherry, all-time great for the Kansas City Chiefs and a fixture around Kansas City in so many endeavors these days, and we'll get to that a little bit later on. Well, you had a tremendous amount of success. You were all East, and you were a great punter, and you were a fine defensive back. But when it came time for the NFL to come around, you were not drafted. You're not the biggest guy in the world for a safety, and overcame that. Was that kind of the reason, or were you thinking that you were going to get drafted? What was the process like after your college career?
Well, it was an interesting process. I mean, once the draft came, I didn't get an opportunity to go to the combine or anything like that. But, it was interesting that, the first day the draft started, there were a number of teams that had called me and said, hey, we may draft you in the later rounds. Would you be interested? And I said, well, of course. And they said, well, and I think now that I look back on it, I think it was all bull crap, right? I think they were trying to feed me stuff and just say, okay, well, if you don't get drafted, will you sign with us as a free agent?
Right.
And then at that time, Ted Cottrell had left. He was our defense coordinator at Rutgers. He had left and gone to Kansas City to take a job with Marv Levy as his linebacker coach. And, he called me and said, "Hey, has anybody called you?" I said, "Yeah, there's been a bunch of teams. Cleveland called, and the New York Jets and the Philadelphia Eagles talked about, signing me as a free agent." And he goes, "Hey, whatever you do, don't sign with anybody. We'd like to bring you out here to Kansas City. We're looking for punters." And then I noticed during that draft, after he told me that they had drafted a bunch of safeties that year. And I said, well, maybe I'll have an opportunity. If not, then I know they were looking for a punter. So right after the draft was over, I got the call, and he says, "Hey, you want to come out here? Have you signed with anybody yet?" I said, "Nope." He goes, "Well, we want to bring you out here." So that's how it got to Kansas City.
But it wasn't as if it went smoothly right off the bat. You ended up in a competition, and Lloyd Burris was a third-round draft choice, and it kind of came down to you and him, and you got cut. What was it? Were you being viewed at both punter or safety, or did it boil down to safety?
Well, I'll tell you what happened. I came out there for minicamp and wind up, after I had signed my contract, we had a mini camp, and I came back out there and I was punting, and we had this new special teams coach, Danny. You remember my old crash, Frank Gans.
Yep.
And he wanted to change my whole punting style because he believed in a two-step punter and never got a punt blocked. And I'm saying, well, if you did your research on me, you'd have noticed in college that, I had never had a punt blocked in college. And, I was kind of a 2.5. I had, did a little cheat step, but I can get it off just as quick as any two-step punter would get it off. And he wanted to change my whole style. So I knew coming back that, for summer camp that, I had a lot of work to do in the off season as far as punting and learning this new style. And when I got my letter to return to training camp, it said about 3 days. I was supposed to come in 3 days before training camp, whereas before it was like 2 weeks to come in and get acclimated to the climate and come in with all the other draft picks and players. And so I was sitting at home when I got my letter and realized that, hey, they must have made a mistake or something, or the handwriting's on the wall. They're going to bring me into camp, and then they're just going to cut me, based on, my performance in minicamp of having to change my whole putting style. And so I called Marv Levy and said, hey, I know my punting wasn't what it should have been, but Coach Gans has had me, start all over again. It's like learning how to walk again, when you change your style that you've been doing your whole entire life. And I said, well, I can also play quarterback, and I can play safety, I can play cornerback. I said, there's 4 or 5 positions I can play. Just give me an opportunity. And he said, okay, hold on, I'll give you a call back. And about 30 minutes later, he calls me back and says, okay, we'll bring you in early, and you can work out at the safety position. And I had looked at those safeties during the mini camp and realized that, these guys they drafted were, they were making mistakes every day. And I'm looking at them going, man, I'm just as good as those guys, just give me an opportunity to prove myself. So when I came back, I just was solely playing safety position and learning that. I was doing punting too, but not as much. And, I was just, learning the safety position and wind up making it to being like the last player cut. I thought I had made the team because usually a team keeps 7 defensive backs. And in this case, they were only keeping 6 for the opening game, and I was so disappointed. I went up to Les Miller. He was our pro personnel director at the time, and, he called me into his office. I'm dressed to go to practice, and it's the first week of the first practice of the regular season, and they were playing the Pittsburgh Steelers that year. And shoot, I was going to be able to go back to Pittsburgh, and my family was going to be able to come up and see me play. And I go to Les Miller, and he says, "Hey, man, we gotta let you go because we drafted 2 tight ends. You remember Willie Scott and then Marvin Harvey, and one of them was the first-round pick, the other one was the third-round pick, and they weren't ready to play, so they had to wind up keeping 4 tight ends, which no team did at that time. But the Chiefs wind up keeping 4 tight ends because Al Dixon was the starter, and then Ed Beckman was a special teams captain. And so they kept 4, and they only kept 6 defensive backs for the first game of the season. They could probably get away with it at that time, because there wasn't that much of a specialty position. Now most teams were, 2 wide receivers and a tight end, so they were basic. So you use 4 defensive backs, and they figured they had 2 of them that could be reserves, a corner, and then another safety. So I got, they said, "Hey, we're sorry, but we're going to have to send you home." So I was the last player cut. I was in my uniform, ready to go out to practice, and thinking that I had made the team. I had guys coming up congratulating me, like Gary Green and Eric Harris and Gary Barber, all the guys in the secondary, and that would have put me and Lloyd, 2 guys that year, that came in the same year. We would have been the only 2, the 2 rookies that would have made the team. And I got cut. So I was not happy, but I was, I knew I could play. I had proven to them that I could play, and they just said, "Hey, go home, stay in shape. You never know when we might call you back." So that's what happened.
Well, they called you back pretty soon, didn't they?
Absolutely. I was home that weekend, and I had left as soon as I got home. I went and saw my mom, and then I left and drove up to Newark, New Jersey, East Orange. That's where my college roommate lived, and I went up and spent the weekend with him and his family, and just was kind of relaxing and kind of, just enjoying the weekend. And then Sunday night, my mom calls me and says, "Hey, Kansas City called. They got a ticket for you to fly out to Kansas City at the Philadelphia airport. One of the players got hurt, and they need you out there." So I drive home, get packing my stuff, and get on a plane, head to Kansas City on Monday, get into Kansas City about 5:30, drive straight to the stadium, go into the general manager's office, Jim Schauf, and he looks at me and says, "Hey, the player wasn't as hurt as bad as we thought he was, so we're not going to be able to sign you, but you can stay here." But Gary Green was nice enough to, he had a 2-bedroom apartment and had an extra room. So he said, "Hey, you can stay with me, and you can use my car. You just drive me, drop me off at practice, and then pick me up. But you can use my car." And then, basically I just worked out during the day and did what I could. And then I was there that first week, and then the second week the Chiefs called me back in and said, "Hey, if nobody gets hurt, we're going to have to send you home." And that next week, I think it was Frank Maliuna got hurt, and Art Still got hurt, and then they wound up signing me.
So that starts the story. You played as a couple of years as a backup, but then you moved into the starting role, and you were great right from the start. And I think you had the confidence to know that, but immediately you became a Pro Bowl player. What did you feel like you had the ability to really step in and be that good?
I did. And the reason I did was because I will tell you this, Danny. I was playing in a secondary with a bunch of guys that were all pros: Gary Barbaro, Eric Harris, Gary Green, and they were so unselfish. When Lloyd and I were there our rookie years, they made sure that we knew everything. I mean, they taught us everything about the game, what to look forward to, how to be a professional. They they weren't selfish. Here's a guy, Gary Barbaro, he's a 2-time All-Pro player, but, I mean, he invested totally into me and my development in the same way with Gary Green. Those guys, they always said, hey, if one of us gets hurt, you're going to have to go in and you're going to have to make all the calls and know the responsibilities. And I'm dependent on you just like I'd be dependent on Gary Barbaro to make sure I'm in the right place and I understand I have the right defense that you're telling me and all those things. So we get in meetings and they would make us answer all the questions. And, Walt Corey was our defensive backfield coach at the time. So he always tested us and, understood that, we had to know everything. And they put that pressure on us from the time we got there, but they were very supportive of, that learning curve for us. And once you're playing with guys like that, they're at that level, you've got to get to that level, and that's what they made sure we did. And for me, that was special because when it came time, when Gary Barbaro was looking at leaving and going to the USFL, and then eventually signed with the USFL, it was Walt Corey who told the coach and told management that, hey, we don't need to go find another safety. We've got one right here. Give this guy an opportunity. And that's exactly what happened. And I came in that first year, and before you know it, I'm leading the league in interceptions and wind up being elected to my first Pro Bowl, the first year that I started.
And you were in a 6-year span where you made the Pro Bowl every year, and you were All-Pro, which means you were the best at your position 3 of those years. Yeah. But you guys had a fine defensive team, and you were ticking off all these players who were good, but you obviously, some of the teams weren't very good, and then when you were pretty good, it was purely because of the defense. How frustrating was that?
It was frustrating at the time because at that time we just had so much, how can I put it, inconsistency with our coaching staffs. There was no continuity there. Every year it seemed like we were changing coaches. And then for me as a defensive player, then all of a sudden you had different defensive coordinators. I think in the first 7 years that I started, I had played in 7 different defensive systems and had a number of different defensive coordinators. And when you're playing, and every year you're having to learn a different defense or they're, calling plays differently, it affects you as a player. But I think I looked at it as a challenge, and, I think through those years I excelled every single year and got better. But it was difficult. When you think about it, we didn't have a great offense. We didn't have a great quarterback. And then, we had an opportunity to draft Dan Marino, and we wound up drafting Ty Blackledge. And, you know how that story ended.
Right.
So, instead of us with our defense that we had, having a quarterback that the likes of a Dan Marino, there's no telling what we could have been. Just think about what this team has right now when they have a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes and what he's capable of doing, and just think if we had, the type of defense that we have. They have a good defense, but I don't think their defense could be as strong as the one we had when I was playing.
You had, I think this is right, you had the same knee injury that I had when I had a running streak that ended. You had a ruptured patellar tendon, is that correct? When did that happen? And back then, that was far more of maybe a bit of a death knell for a career, wasn't it?
Yeah, Neil Smith got fooled on a reverse in a play and doubled back, and I came up and made the tackle, but he dove and came backwards to make the tackle, and the running back goes down. His helmet actually hits me in my knee and tears my ACL, and then I was out. So I can remember so vividly, thinking asking the doctor, okay, what do you think it is? And he goes, I don't know, but I know you've got, a medial collateral strain, and, I'm not sure about your ACL. I think, you might have torn that, but I won't know until we go in there. And a couple of days later, I go in to have surgery, and sure enough, my ACL was torn, and my medial collateral ligament was partially torn, and so I had a long recovery. I mean, back then, you were almost saying that was career-ending, but then the surgeries had changed, and you had better techniques to repair those things, and they actually took a third of my patella tendon out and made a new anterior cruciate ligament. And, the doctor said, it might take, 15 months, before you can get back on the field. And I said, it's not going to take me 15 months. And sure enough, I was able to get back in 10 months on the field. I mean, I probably could have got back sooner, but, I wasn't ready at the beginning of the season. And normally they put you on that PUP list, which is physically unable to perform. And if you're, not on the roster at the beginning of the season, then you had to wait, 6 games in order to be ready to play. I was ready before that, but I had to wait that maximum of 6 games. And then eventually I came back to 7th game, and it was at home and against the Raiders when I came back on the field.
That was 1990. You would play that year and one more year. What were the circumstances of? And Marty had come to town, so now you had good football teams. Although, again,
Yep.
The offenses weren't great at that point in time. Joe Montana hadn't come aboard by then. What were the circumstances?
Hadn't come. Yeah, David Craig came, and then the following year, Joe Montana came with Marcus Allen, and I was there in '89 when we had drafted Derek Thomas, and our defense was really good, and that was the year I got hurt. And then '90 year, Steve DeBerg was here, and we had a really good team there, and was in the playoffs. And then the following year in '91, we had an opportunity, where we played the Raiders at home in the playoff game and beat them, and then went to Buffalo and wound up losing in the divisional round. So, it was tough. I mean, we didn't have, like I said, Marty's, was big into having a running game and relying on his defense. And, but you have to score points. You got to be able to score points in this league in order to win championships. I mean, very seldom can you do it with a defense, and there are teams that have. Baltimore was one of them that did it with a great defense, but you still have to have offense, I think, to win championships.
And after that 1991 season, what led you to decide that was enough?
That 91 season, I mean, I was, thinking about retirement. I was always preparing for it. And there were, I was thinking about my health. Of course, I had the knee injury, and then I had a bulging disc in my neck, and, I was fine. I probably could have played another 3 years, and, but I got an opportunity to go in the business, and own an Anheuser-Busch distributorship, and was actually, had gotten awarded that distributorship right before the 91 season. So I knew that eventually that, I was going to have to transition away from the game. And I kind of knew 91 would be my last year for the most part. I still thought I could play, but, I had made a commitment that, I was going to hang it up and, eventually go into business, and had something that I could walk away from the game on my terms and not somebody else's terms. I didn't want Schottenheimer coming to me saying, hey, kid, I think your skills have diminished, and I think you should hang it up. And, I didn't want somebody coming to me telling me that, I wanted to, be able to walk away from the game on my terms, and I was able to do that. So I feel very fortunate, because I think as as a player, there's always an end to it, and you have to prepare yourself. And I think I probably did the best that I could to prepare myself and have something to fall back on once I retired from the game.
Well, you did it remarkably well. You've been an incredible success in business, but maybe even more so in philanthropy and all the things that you're involved with, from the Special Olympics to muscular dystrophy, United Negro College Fund, and your golf tournament, which has benefited a couple of great charities. What was it that inspired you to be so involved in the community and really so dedicated to charitable giving?
Well, I'll tell you, Danny, it's, it was kind of in my blood, but I think the person who kind of really inspired me the most was a gentleman by the name of Merle Pratt, who was in my hometown. And Mr. Pratt was the janitor at our high school. And, as young kids growing up, you could either go one of two ways, right? You could be good or you could be bad, and there was plenty of bad where I grew up. And he would always give us kids who, an opportunity to stay off the streets, stay out of trouble. He would open up the gymnasium at the high school, let us go in there and play basketball or do whatever we wanted to do, knowing that he was going to have to go back in there and clean that place up after we left, because he would allow us to come in and stay as long as we needed to stay. And I remember being there, till 10, 11 o'clock at night and walking home, and thinking, man, now he's going to have to clean up after us in the gym, but he never mind doing it. And I thought, man, what a sacrifice that he's making for us kids to have an opportunity to, play sports, stay out of trouble, giving us an opportunity. I never forget that. And I was close. My family was close to Mr. Pratt's family, and his daughters and son, we grew up together. I mean, it's just like family, but, as many kids as he helped in that community, it was amazing to me. And I always said, if I ever got in a position where I could help folks out, those that didn't have an opportunity, or give kids a sense of belonging, and really, regardless of their socioeconomic background, to give them, kind of a head start on life, to be able to build a foundation, I would always try to do that. And so, really, all the stuff that I do, the work that I've committed to, it goes back to what Mr. Pratt did for us as young kids growing up in Palmyra, New Jersey. And I never forgot that, and I never will. So I've always tried to make sure that in any way that I could help in this community. And then the other side, Danny, is, Kansas City's been very good to me. I mean, these fans have been great. The public has been great when I've reached out to them to help me support these organizations. I mean, they continue to do it even during this time where there's a pandemic. These folks have been great, supporting us and supporting our mission and what we're about at the Deron Cherry Foundation, and being able to help as many organizations as we help, and continue to do that. They support us, and I can't say enough about those folks that allow us to do what we do every day.
And you've had a very great time as a family man, too. Tell me about your family.
Yeah, so, I've got 5 kids, and, they're special to me. They're all doing well. My oldest is 35. My youngest is 7. So I got a whole gamut there, right? But I'm enjoying them. I've got 2 out of college, and one's at Creighton. I've got a daughter at Scion, and then my 7-year-old is at presentation right now in Lee Summit. They're all doing well. They're healthy. And so I've been blessed and fortunate. My wife, Hope, allows me the opportunity to do all these things that I do in the community, and she's been very selfless with her time and allows me the opportunity to go out there and make an impact, when she knows how much it's helping other folks who are less fortunate. I mean, my kids, they don't have to want for anything, Danny. And I tell them this, but I said there's kids out there that need support and need help, and a lot of times they're with me in this journey, and they're able to come and volunteer and help out with me when we go to some of these charities that we do things with. And so that's special. I think they get to see that. They get to understand the need that's out there, so they don't take for granted the things that they have. And, I try to expose my kids to as much as I can. I take them on trips so that they can see that, there's a different world out there than here in just, our hometown of Greenwood, Missouri, that there's a huge world out there, and there's a lot of opportunities for them to be productive and to help those that are less fortunate. So I'm really, really blessed when it comes to my family.
Finally, it doesn't sound like you're going to slow down anytime soon. What do you think the future holds in the rich life of Deron Cherry?
Well, God willing, and I know God has been with me my whole entire life and has, given me a path to, understand that, without Him I wouldn't be here and I wouldn't be able to do the things that I do. He allows me to do those things, and as long as He keeps blessing me and keeps, directing me in a path to serve others, I'm going to continue to do that as long as I'm breathing and I'm upright. So as long as He keeps me here on this earth, I'm always going to continue to reach out and try to help as many more people as I can, because there's a lot of needs out there in this community, and there's a lot of people that need help, and we want to try to do what we can to help those folks that need it the most. And that's my mission. That's the mission that I'm on. And every day there might be somebody else that comes in and says, "God, I need your help with something," or "Can you support this?" or "Can you support that?" And I want to be able to do that, Danny. That's part of, I think, being somebody who's involved in the community, but more importantly, willing to make the sacrifice to help those that are less fortunate, that need help. And I want to be there for them as much as I can be, and make sure that we can give people that maybe don't have all the advantages that I had. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, I worked hard, but I think some people sometimes just need a helping hand at times to bring them to a point where they can survive on their own.
This podcast was made possible by our great sponsors like Easton Roofing, the presenting sponsor of Kansas City Profiles at the Danny Kling Scale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Easton Roofing, where integrity matters. We hope you enjoyed the latest Danny Kling Scale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Come back soon for something fresh and new.